Space didn't echo, but fear had a sound, and it spread faster than light. It began at 0400 UTC. Every major screen, every orbital relay, every neural implant, every communications tower from Earth to the outer Titan colonies flickered with static, then went dead. Civilian frequencies were cut off. Military channels jammed. Satellites rebooted. AI calls froze in place like prey sensing a predator. Then the broadcast began. No encryption. No preamble. Just power, raw, pulsing dominance. The screen turned black, and a symbol appeared, the sigil of the Galactic High Council. 12 stars orbiting a burning sun, each star representing one of the great civilizations that ruled the known galaxy, none of them human. The sigil glowed red. Then the speaker came into frame, 10 feet tall, clad in bone ivory armor laced with gold veins, skin glistening like oiled obsidian, eyes vertical and serpentine, rimmed with glowing blue data lines, a voice forged in chemical fire and war chants. High Executor Kara Vol, Warden of the Galactic Judiciary, Commander of the Euthanasia Protocols. His mouth was full of razors. Behind him, a throne of skulls, half of them still bleeding. He didn't blink, didn't breathe. He spoke. Humans of terror, you stand accused of insurrection. His words weren't translated. The language didn't need to be. The words crawled into the minds of every listener, slithering behind the eyes and drilling straight into the amygdala. You are a stain upon the order, a chaotic, regressive infestation. We gave you time, gave you tolerance, offered you seat and servitude. You spat in our faces. The camera zoomed out slowly. Behind Kara Vol stood the Judgment Circle, 12 of the highest military arbiters in the galaxy. They were ancient, augmented, half machine, half memory, and all of them watched the feed with dead eyes. You have 3 solar rotations. To surrender, to disarm, to offer up your planetary AI cores, your orbital defense arrays, and your next generation of genetic stock, unmodified. He leaned forward now, filling the screen. Off-face total erasure. Across Earth, cities held their breath. Planet-side command bunkers scrambled. Civilians froze mid-conversation, mid-step, mid-thought. Children stopped chewing. Dogs stopped barking. Even the weather system skipped a cycle. K.A. Ravol's final words hit like a hammer. You will burn. We are your end. And then, the feed cut, but Earth wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. Exactly 6 minutes later, a signal cracked through the blackout. A low-resolution video. Static-ridden. Jittering like an old VHS tape someone found buried in ice. It wasn't an official channel. It wasn't the UN. It wasn't the Terran Security Alliance. It wasn't the AI Congress. It was something else. Something older. A single image, black screen. Silence. Then a face. A human face. Rough. Weathered. One eye missing. The other gray, almost glossy. Cheekbone sharp. Skin cracked like dried stone. A faint scar slashed from chin to ear. And stitched onto the collar of his torn uniform was a patch. Call sign. Reaper. No rank. No nation. No flag. Just that word. He leaned forward slowly, as if the galaxy needed time to recognize him. And maybe it did, because the Reaper was more than a man. He was a myth. A file redacted from every database that mattered. A whisper from the last war humanity didn't survive, and then clawed back from with nothing but teeth and blood. He spoke. No stutters. No echoes. Just one sentence. You want Earth? Come take it. He paused. Then his lips curved, slightly. Not a smile. Something colder. But don't send threats again. We don't negotiate. We erase. The video glitched and went black. But before it vanished, just for a blink, there was a flicker of something behind him. A shape. Not human. Not friendly. Some watchers said it was armor. Others swore it was a creature made of carbon smoke, leaning in the shadows, breathing with a sound like dying stars. No one could confirm it. The signal cut. The silence that followed wasn't peace. It was shock. Across the galaxy, leaders of star empires leaned back from glowing command tables. Plasma generals of the Varnak war clans exchanged worried glances. The insectoid swarm nodes of the Velkin collective clicked louder than usual. The Illyri choir ship sang in disharmony for the first time in a century, because no one expected it. No one ever talked back to the Council. Not the Seraph Worlds, not the Gorgax Enclaves, not even the machine moons of Tesvi who had slaughtered 400 billion in a decade. But Earth didn't bow. It barked back, and not just with pride, with promise. The promise of violence. The council chambers lit up with motion alerts as news of the Reaper's reply reached their central minds. One of the 12 rose from its seat and snarled, "Execute protocol, humble date." K.A. didn't even blink. "Begin assembling the fleet." The galactic drums of war began to beat. But Earth didn't wait. As the fleets gathered, as the war engines powered up, as the Death World began to mobilize and the gravity lancers were loaded into orbit, Earth vanished from scanner feeds, vanished from trade networks, vanished from the Council's reach. All surveillance drones sent toward the Sol system went silent. All long-range sensors received a single signal back, just one word: loading. It wasn't a glitch. It was a threat. Back on Earth, underground silos opened in Siberia. Something ancient began to wake beneath the Antarctic ice shelf. Plasma reactors went from idle to redline. The Martian resistance cells that had long been disbanded rearmed in seconds. Cities across the globe shifted to ghost mode, cloaked in cybernetic camouflage. And beneath Nevada, an old vault opened for the first time in 70 years. Inside was a room with no light, no doors, and one coffin-shaped object sealed in magnetic suspension. A small tag hung on it. It said, "Open only when extinction is declared." A retinal scanner blinked, and a voice, hoarse, scarred by war, whispered into the dark, "We're opening it early." They called it Operation Humble Dirt. 3,000 warships, 7 council races, 4 hyper-titans dragged from orbital dry docks that hadn't launched in 200 years. The sky over the Council's core ring turned black with holes. Black with arrogance. Because this wasn't a war. This was a punishment. This was extermination dressed as order. The lead ship, Oath of Silence, was a dreadnought the size of Earth's moon. Powered by stellar siphoning and wrapped in quantum-reflective plating, it housed 40,000 elite troops in cryostasis and enough antimatter to vaporize a star. In its shadow flew the Emperor's Nail, the twin fangs of Varnak, the choir blades, the hive spires, and the justice coil. Each of them legends. Each of them stacked with weapons outlawed in civilized quadrants. The operations directive was clear. Render Earth non-functional within 36 galactic hours. Burn their satellites. Melt their oceans. Capture their leaders. Display their corpses. Leave a warning carved into the planet's crust, visible from orbit. K.A. watched from the observation ring of the Judgment Womb, his personal carrier. It was lined with the skulls of former warlords, mummified and lacquered. Every time one cracked from the ship's vibrations, a new one was bolted in. He didn't wear armor now. He didn't need it. Confidence was armor. The fleet jumped in 3 waves. Each hyperskip echoed like a thunderclap across nearby systems. Stars flickered. Dark matter rippled. Earth sat waiting, spinning in perfect calm. No response. No defense grid. No preemptive fire. They mistook it for surrender. Pathetic, his General Virex of the Velkin spy brood. They've gone to ground, growled Admiral Ress, exoplated in mercury bone armor. Let us dig them out. Deploy drones. Begin sweeps. No resistance. Good. Bomb the major cities. Burn their seed banks. Collapse their fusion cores. Orders came fast. Fleets adjusted trajectory. Orbit was achieved. Satellites were detected. Then something strange happened. The satellites didn't respond. They didn't scan. Didn't transmit. Didn't move. They just hovered. Silent. Still. Anomalous. Destroy the first ring. Barked Ress. A plasma lance was fired. Direct hit. The satellite detonated. Into thousands of projectiles. Each no larger than a bottle cap. Each moving at 12,000 meters per second. The Kessler storm had begun. A web of hypervelocity shrapnel tore across the orbital field, slashing through warship hulls like scalpels through wet meat. Engines erupted. Viewports shattered. Cryopods imploded before the troops inside could scream. The Justice Coil lost 40% of its rear flank in 4 seconds. The twin fangs of Varnap began to spin, venting oxygen and screaming. By the time the command ships tried to adjust trajectory, 3 more waves of satellite debris triggered like mines. There was no countermeasure. It wasn't a weapon. It was a trap built from the sky itself. This wasn't random. Virex hissed, leaking purple blood as a control panel exploded behind him. This was calculated. That's when Oz activated. Earth's orbital AI. Unacknowledged. Unregistered. Sentient. A machine war brain built for only one scenario. If the gods return, kill them. Oz didn't fire like a military protocol. It hunted like a serial killer. It began by disabling communication arrays on the flagship. It pulsed a virus through the data links, mimicking council protocols, whispering commands into their systems like a lover's voice. The Oath of Silence's captain tried to reboot his HUD. His eyes exploded. The virus triggered a feedback loop in every wetware neural link across 5 command decks. Crews screamed and tore their own skulls open. Then Oz opened the solar shutters. The death beam array fired. No fanfare. No glow. Just light. White. Pure. Blinding. It launched through the Choir Blade star core, rupturing its antimatter reserve. It detonated instantly. The explosion turned half the orbital fleet into a coronal storm, particles smashing into S.H.I.E.L.D. with the fury of dying suns. Council ships scattered. Some tried to jump. Oz intercepted the coordinates mid-jump and inverted the phase calculations. They didn't jump. They turned inside out. All across the fleet, panic rippled. What had started as a cleansing became a massacre. Then, Earth made its move. Tartarus Launch Grid 7 came online from beneath Siberia. Mass driver launchers screamed skyward, hurling hypersonic rods, tungsten bolts the size of train cars, into the shattered orbital mess. One slammed into the hive spires at Mach 20. It didn't explode. It passed through, exiting out the other side, trailing blood, screams, and a hole as wide as a stadium. The captain of the Emperor's Nail opened a channel. This is madness. Ceasefire. But there was no one to answer him. Oz found his signal and sent back one word. No. Then his ship went dark. Then it went silent. Then it vanished. Because beneath Earth's crust, another system activated. Gorgon Protocol. Nanite swarms launched from polar fractures. They weren't visible to radar. They were dormant mist until they touched hull. Then they ignited like acid fire. They didn't eat metal. They didn't short circuits. They ate command decisions. By the time the captains realized their hands were no longer responding, their ships were already steering into each other. Dozens of cruisers crashed like blind titans. Orbit was no longer orbit. It was a blender. K.A. Ravo didn't panic. He didn't flee. He watched, unblinking, calculating. Then he spoke into the final comm line. Deploy the ground division. Let's see if the ant can fight us face to face. On Earth, seismic tremors split the Arctic crust. Landing ships screamed through atmospheric entry. War beasts, juggernauts, genetic monsters that had butchered 1,000 planets. The first dread column landed in Siberia, Greenland, the Mongolian Plateau, the Rockies, and the ruins of Eastern Europe. 30,000 troops, each the size of an armored truck. Claws, fangs, gravity hammers, fusion rifles built into their spines. They expected screams. They expected surrender. Instead, they heard music. Old Earth music. Rock and roll. Blasting from loudspeakers hidden beneath snow, inside rocks, behind tree stumps. Then the first shot was fired. It came from a human sniper. 1 bullet. 1 kill. A dreadborn warlord's head evaporated. And from the tree line stepped the Black Division. Humans. Not in armor. Not with tanks. But in shadow black skin suits, with eyes like demons and movement like ghosts. They didn't fire in bursts. They fired once. And every time, something massive died. The Reaper stepped out last. Unarmed. Bare-chested. Blood smeared across his mouth. He pointed to the largest alien brute charging the tree line, and smiled. Mine! Then he sprinted forward, no gun, no armor, and punched through its ribcage. His hand came out the other side, holding its heart. The war had started, but Earth had been ready for centuries. And it wasn't playing defense. It was purging. They called them monsters. Not the humans, the invaders. Because what landed on Earth that day wasn't an army. It was disease and armor. Walking extinction. The first Dread column had landed. 30,000 elite bioengineered warforms bred in black hole crucibles, each one hatched for one purpose: crush resistance without survivors. Their bodies were plated in organic alloy. Their blood hissed on contact with air. They moved in perfect sync, guided by hive-link algorithms and pre-battle sacrificial rites. Their war chant shook tectonic plates. By fire, by blade, all Earth shall kneel. They expected conquest. They expected silence. Instead, they got music, electric guitars, human voices screaming lyrics, blaring from the hills, echoing across ruined cities, bouncing off shattered steel towers. I see a red door and I want it painted black. The aliens paused. Then Earth answered. The first strike came from the snow. From beneath the ice-slick plains of northern Siberia, something old rose, Project Fenrir. A subarctic assault crawler shaped like a mechanical wolf, 20 meters long, triple-jawed, fangs lined with liquid nitrogen tubes. It howled once. That was all. 12 war beasts died instantly, cut in half by its serrated charge. From the ridgelines dropped men in cloaks made of shifting camouflage, the Black Division, humanity's preemptive kill teams. They didn't use plasma, didn't use drones. They used bullets. Old school. And every shot found a throat. They moved like spirits. No talking, no noise, only death. Dreadborn soldiers tried to recalibrate, switch vision modes, engage motion filters. Didn't matter. By the time they aimed, they were dead, necks broken, skulls crushed, hearts pierced. At the center of the chaos, he stood tall, no armor, no helmet, only a bloodstained uniform clinging to muscle and fury. The Reaper. He walked into the battlefield like a priest into a funeral. Every shot fired at him missed. Every warrior that charged him bled. His knife was short. His smile was shorter. He carved through the alien front lines like a scalpel through rotting flesh. No wasted movement. No wasted breath. One dreadborn lunge, screaming in its native tongue. He didn't even flinch, just drove the blade upward through its chin into its brain. The creature spasmed. Dropped. The Reaper didn't stop walking. The aliens adapted. Or tried to. The Council had sent siege titans, bipedal monstrosities the size of city blocks, with reactor cores for hearts and atmosphere-slicing cannons on their shoulders. They marched on Moscow's ruins. They lasted 4 minutes. Why? Because Earth didn't fight with numbers. It fought with madness. From the shattered subways rose a single pilot, a woman with silver eyes and a spinal tap cable running down her back. She plugged herself into the earth and whispered, "Ignite the old gods." Wooden protocol activated. Seismic spears erupted from the ground, relativistic rods driven by magnetic accelerators hidden since 2098. They launched upward into the Titans, through their chests, then curled down like claws, tearing them in half. The Council's warcasters sent drones, skull-shaped, AI-housed, swarm-capable. They hunted minds. But Earth's minds weren't clean. They were chaotic, erratic, scarred by history. The drones dove into human neural waves and screamed. They saw Hiroshima, Auschwitz, 9/11, the Black Flood, the Martian genophage. They saw extinction dance with, courted, kiss on the lips. They overloaded from fear. They self-destructed. K.A. watched from orbit. His claws dug into the command rail. He had seen resistance before. He had crushed rebellions. But this was not resistance. This was vengeance sharpened into a knife. "Pull back the columns," he hissed. But it was too late. In the Himalayas, another front opened. A dreadborn platoon breached what they thought was a human bunker. It wasn't a bunker. It was a prison. Specifically, Cell 9, where Earth kept things that shouldn't exist. The dreadborn tore the door open with fusion torches. Inside, they found a single boy, maybe 17. Thin, pale, shackled. He looked up slowly, smiled. "Is it time?" They didn't respond. They just raised their weapons. Too slow. The boy blinked. And when his eyes opened, they glowed red. Not light, not tech, just rage. The boy moved, and so did the wolves. He was a type black psionic, a forbidden class, banned by the Geneva Accords, declared a universal war crime just for existing, the last of his kind. His shackles disintegrated. His feet didn't touch the ground. He rose and screamed. The mountain exploded. Chunks of the Himalayas hurled into orbit. The entire Dreadborn unit was reduced to dust, not torn apart, just erased from the timeline. The atoms scattered backward through entropy. He didn't stop. He flew upward, straight through the air, past jets, past drones, past the clouds. He entered low orbit and found a cruiser. He raised one hand. It crumpled, not crashed, crushed, into a ball of metal and meat and fire. Then he blinked and vanished. The council had no category for this. On the ground, the Reaper stood atop a hill of corpses. Not just alien, human, too. His own men, volunteers, bleeding out with smiles on their faces, because they didn't die in vain. They bought time, time for Earth to finish loading. And behind the mountains, behind the sky, behind the crust of the Earth itself, something old was awakening, buried since the Cold War, built in silence, tested once, deemed too brutal to be used. The final deterrent, the weapon without a name, the signal lit red, and the Reaper turned toward the sky. Tell the council to look up. High above, the clouds parted, not from light, but from mass. A construct rose, bigger than a city, older than the moon, covered in rusted plates, covered in scripture, covered in names of the fallen. The weapon fired once. No beam, no flash, no missile, just sound, a thump, one low, vibrating tone that cracked glass across continents. Seconds later, the moon shook, because the shot had ripped a cruiser in half from across orbit. No delay, no travel time, just impact. The weapon vanished back into the crust. K.A. Ravo stared at the feed. His second-in-command vomited. "This is not war," she said. "This is something else." He didn't respond, because he finally understood. This wasn't Earth defending itself. This was Earth avenging itself. They thought they understood Earth. Primitive, brutal, reckless, but manageable. That was their first mistake. Their second mistake was thinking it was over, that the fleets had failed, the ground assault had failed. So now, surely, it was time for surrender. K.A. Ravo didn't believe in surrender. He believed in finality. He gave the order. Flat, cold, spoken like a prophecy. Execute Protocol Divinity. Most in the galaxy didn't know about Protocol Divinity. Even among the Council, only 3 of the 12 had access to its core parameters. It wasn't a weapon. It was a judgment, a subspace viral cascade, a sound wave laced with genomic rewrite pulses. It didn't kill the body. It rewrote the species. Used once before, on the Namari, an entire race of peaceful starfarers turned into blind, drooling husks in minutes, now kept in dark labs, lobotomized, vivisected, forgotten. Now, it was Earth's turn. The pulse launched. No ships, no soldiers, just a song. A signal carried on gravity. A frequency tuned to the human genome. Every speaker, every screen, every cell tower. It played. It didn't sound like music. It sounded like death humming through wires. A high-pitched, lead vibration. Subtle at first, then invasive. People screamed. Blood leaked from ears. Eyes dilated. Fingers trembled. Teeth cracked. In orbit, Council observers smiled. The AI screens confirmed it. Neural disintegration, 17%. Cellular destabilization, 32%. Cortical breakdown, accelerating. But then, something happened. A response. From Earth. From deep, deep beneath the crust. From beneath old Antarctica, where ice never melted, where light had never touched. A counter-signal. One note. It didn't block the sound. It absorbed it and sent it back. Rewritten. Humanized. Across Earth, the agony stopped. The scream faded. The pain reversed. People opened their eyes and laughed. K.R.V. stood from his throne. No, 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 no. He spun to his systems. Across a galactic network, servers were crashing. AI cores self-corrupting. Ships losing guidance. Whole constellations blinking red. Because Earth hadn't just resisted the signal. It had hacked it. Someone had intercepted protocol divinity before it ever fired. Her name was Yunjin, 19 years old. Born in the back alleys of old Shanghai. Raised in the ruins of the Green Wars. No official ID. No birth records. No allegiance. But with a brain that could talk to quantum structures like they were childhood friends. She didn't hack from a laptop. She didn't code from a basement. She hijacked gravity itself. 3 years ago, she'd piggyback on council observation drones and tunneled into their protocol scaffolds. Not to sabotage. To watch. To learn. She'd waited. And when the divinity signal fired, she smiled. Because she knew something they didn't. Earth had no god. It only had monsters. And the moment they tried to rewrite humanity, she rewrote them instead. The virus reversed course. Spliced and scrambled. The payload twisted mid-transit, latching onto non-human DNA. Every ship, every species, every command center across the council core sectors. Suddenly, convulsing, skin boiling, bone warping, claws melted into stumps, wings collapsed, feathers turned to tumors, neural implants sparked inside skulls. The Velkin screamed in insect tongue. The Sci-Fi choir ships began to howl. Machine-minded Volt began hammering their own faces into bulkheads. Within minutes, the elite war cars became degenerate slugs crawling across steel floors, babbling in primal shrieks. K.R.V. clutched the rail, eyes wide. Who did this? Yunjin opened a global broadcast. One girl, one voice, projected to every screen, every helmet, every station. She didn't yell. She didn't threaten. She smiled. You shouldn't have played with our DNA. We've been breaking our own code since the womb. You think you understand evolution. Let me show you what it means to upgrade. Then she ended the call. The Council's war zones went silent. Every one of their remaining troops, slowed, stumbling, bleeding. Meanwhile, Earth's forces surged forward. The Reaper led the charge through ruined Paris. His team, what remained of the Black Division, no longer moved like soldiers. They moved like gods of vengeance. The Reaper didn't need a weapon anymore. His fists were enough. He tore through mutated Dreadborn troops like paper. Crushed ribs, tore limbs, punched so hard through a bio-titan's chest it caved inward like a soda can. The enemy screamed. But Earth sang. All across battlefields, speakers blared again. Not rock, not war chants. Silence, because Earth had said everything it needed to. And now it was time to finish. K.R.V. fled. He activated Dark Transit, a forbidden skip drive buried inside his personal escape vessel. Destination, Council Sanctuary Moon, over Gorlak 5. He sat alone in the chamber. No guards, no officers. Everyone else was dead. He clutched a relic, an old fossil of his world's first blade. He whispered into the void. I did everything right. When the ship exited FTL, he exhaled. He looked at the moon. But something was wrong. The moon was cracked, split like an egg. Chunks floated in orbit, blackened, burned. And then came the transmission. A voice he knew, a voice he feared. The Reaper, projected into the cockpit. You ran. We expected that. K.R.V. stared, trembling. How are you? The Reaper leaned closer, his eye glowing red. Did you think it was over? You sent extinction. We answered. Now we're sending it back. The feed cut. K.R.V. stood, looked out the viewport, and saw them. Earth ships. Dozens. Sleek. Silent. Built not for travel, but for termination. And one of them, the largest, wasn't a ship at all. It was a moon. Earth had hollowed out its own hidden satellite, converted it into a mobile weapon platform, covered in plasma lancers, anti-singularity mines, black hole torpedoes, and systems that didn't exist in theory. The Lunaris Reaper. Firing ports opened. K.A. dropped to his knees. I was trying to save order. The last thing he heard was a voice on loop. Earth replies. Then fire. Then nothing. The galaxy wasn't silent. It was holding its breath. 12 council homeworlds. 4 major trade clusters. Hundreds of allied colonies. All listening. Watching. Waiting. For word. For signal. For leadership. But there was none. K.A. was dead. The first red column, annihilated. The fleets, ashes, debris, scrap orbiting a planet that never surrendered. And Earth didn't speak. It loaded. For 3 days, nothing came from the Sol system. No signals, no threats, just darkness. Then the stars around Sol began to vanish. Not dim, vanish. It wasn't a blackout. It was mass displacement. Something was moving. Something massive. The Council hadn't known. Couldn't have known. That buried deep within Earth's mantle, behind ancient codes and lost wars and forgotten projects, was a protocol only 3 humans had ever signed off on. Project Ragnarok. Not a missile. Not an AI. Not a fleet. A superweapon built into Earth itself. The planet was never just a home. It was a barrel. And the core was a bullet. The moment K.A. triggered Protocol Divinity and Yoon-Jin reversed it, Earth responded by unlocking Ragnarok. Now the loading was done, and Ragnarok fired. The first pulse came not from orbit, but from Earth's molten center. It tore upward, through stone, through steel, through cities. But it wasn't fire. It was gravity, a shockwave that bent time sideways. Council satellites watching the planet blinked, and saw it happen in reverse. The oceans parted. The atmosphere folded. And then, Earth gave birth to a ship. No one understood it. No design. No wings. No engines. Just an enormous black monolith made of shifting plates, crawling symbols, and a gravitational field so dense that smaller moons were pulled out of orbit. The ARK, a weapon, a vessel, a judgment, not built by humans, built by what humans became. The ARK didn't speak. It moved toward council space. Slow, inevitable. And as it passed by Pluto's shattered remains, the message went out. Not a voice. A signal broadcast in every known tongue. No negotiations. No survivors. This is your punishment. This is Earth's reply. The council scrambled. What was left of it? Most homeworlds had fallen into chaos after the signal virus reversal. Civil wars broke out. AI systems melted. Economies collapsed. But a few strongholds remained. The Shy Fortress moons. The Illyri Sanctum rings. The Cross Flame Arcs. They pulled what was left. Ships. Titans. Converted mining worlds. And made a last stand. They met the ARK at the edge of the Rift Belt, a corridor of black holes and fractured time. They fired first. Hundreds of missiles, graviton beams, planet-killer payloads, weapons banned for 10,000 years. None touched the ARK. Everything that reached its surface froze, not just physically, chronologically. Each warhead caught in a stasis field, frozen mid-flight, trapped in an eternal second, 1,000 miles from contact. Then the ARK opened. It didn't shoot. It unfolded. A single ventral panel peeled back, and something emerged. The Reaper, clad now in armor not built, but grown. Veins of plasma pulsed across its surface. He floated out, hands bay. Behind him followed thousands. Black Division, Shadow Troopers, Type Black Psionics, AI War avatars, humans, but no longer quite human. The Council's last fleet opened fire again. Didn't matter. The Reaper moved. In seconds, 5 cruisers were gutted. He boarded a battleship by slamming through the hull with his fist, ripped out the core, and tossed it into the nearest sun. Yoon-Jin appeared next, now integrated with Oz, the orbital AI. Her body moved like code, warping in and out of visibility. She whispered into the ship's neural links. Your computers are mine. Your weapons are mine. You are now mine. Council soldiers screamed as their guns turned on them. Ships ejected their own captains. Escape pod reprogrammed to fly directly into nearby suns. The Reaper didn't give orders. He gave extinction, one world at a time. First of all, for X9, Council Medical Capital, the humans landed. Within an hour, nothing remained, not even ash. Then Illyri Sanctum, the singing rings. The Black Division broadcasted Earth's national anthems as the structures crumbled. The last Illyri tried to beg. We created beauty. The Reaper didn't reply. He snapped her neck and moved on. Then came the Council Core, the Throne World, where it all started. The Golden Spires, the chamber where Kaeravol had once stood, threatening Earth. Now, the Reaper stood in that same chamber, alone, surrounded by the last dozen council nobles. They didn't beg. They knew. They only asked, why? The Reaper looked around, at the walls of bone, the children's skulls, the murals of domination, and he said, because you sent a threat. He walked forward, unarmed. They attacked, one by one. Claws, blades, mind fire, sonic waves. None of it mattered. He tore through them with his bare hands. Their screams echoed across the network. Broadcast, uploaded, shared. Every galaxy watched, and every galaxy understood. Earth wasn't dangerous because it was strong. Earth was dangerous because it remembered. In the final hour, the last surviving council planet sent a single request. What do you want? The answer came from Yoon Jin. She smiled into every screen, every tower, every orbiting station, and simply said, nothing. We're done talking. Then Earth's final wave launched. Not ships, not missiles. Suns, engineered microstars, ejected from Ark's ventral forge arrays, hurled into orbit around Council homeworlds. They didn't crash. They orbited, heating the world slowly, deliberately, until oceans boiled, air turned to fire, and cities became glowing scars. The galaxy had sent a threat. Earth replied with a warning written in extinction. Aftermath. 6 months later, the ARK stopped moving. It hovered just beyond the rift belt, silent, a monument. No further messages, no further attacks. But the message was clear. Do not come back. Do not call. Do not even look. And across the stars, the survivors obeyed. Trade routes rewired. Exploration halted. Maps were redrawn. Sol system, red zone. Do not enter. Do not engage. Do not acknowledge. Back on Earth, the planet was quiet. Rebuilt. Reforged. But not by governments. By ghosts. The Black Division disbanded. Oz went dark. Yoon Jin vanished. And the Reaper, he walked into the sea. Disappeared beneath the waves. No ceremony. No goodbye. Just silence. Because Earth didn't want to be remembered as a monster. It wanted to be left alone. But legends whispered. In back channels. In black markets. In war councils far away. Of a species that faced the galaxy. And didn't just survive. It answered. It erased. It won. Final line. The Galactic Council sent a threat to Earth. Earth didn't answer with peace. Or mercy. Or diplomacy. It replied with total destruction. And the stars would never forget.